Human beings are searching for the personal experience of reality. They are seeking to come to understand themselves, to find a reason for their own existence.
And so you go round and round and round, ever chasing the illusion that there is something outside yourself, outside your here and now, to be attained that will make things better.
No guru, no method, no teacher, and no nothing else either.
Hello, Ancestral Healers, reorganizing the double helixes of our fractured family codes. Welcome to the Spiritual Phoenix Podcast. I am your host, Ross Cessna, and today's topic is going to be about ancestral healing. So anybody who's listened to this knows that my own journey has been wrought with mental health issues, substance abuse issues, and largely this podcast is focused on me kind of reintegrating back into life after those circumstances. And as I've explored these areas in my life, I've really come to understand how deeply wounded my family's history really is. I come from a line of addicts. Both of my grandparents' parents on my mother's side were alcoholics. I'm fairly certain that you can trace addiction on the other side of my family. And then there's this trickle-down trauma that is associated with even being children of alcoholics, and that's even passed on further to their own children, and so on and so forth. So really looking at my own life and understanding some of the things that I've dealt with, I found it relevant to bring light to this to maybe help other people on their own journeys. So just something as simple as being spanked has a deep impact upon the psyche of a child. For many of us, it will teach us that anger results in physical violence, disobedience results in physical violence, and it creates a sense of fear and confrontation. But when you pick at that even further, my mother was spanked. My grandma will actually brag about beating my mother and my aunts and uncles with a Marine Corps belt. And it's very sadistic in lots of ways. And that's one of the other things about going on this journey of deep healing, is understanding that, first off, people that do bad things are still people at the core of it, and they probably still have some good. And the people who mean the most to you in your life can be some of the people that have impacted you in the deepest negative ways. And through really going through my own healing journey and having to stay at my mother's while I get back on my feet. I shouldn't say getting to stay at my mother's while I'm getting back on my feet and kind of refocusing my life, and seeing how much some of her own mannerisms and habits and the ways that she navigates reality, how much that impacted me negatively, and how it still has the ability to send me into this fight or flight mode. I mean, even when she's kind of getting ready to go to work in the morning and I'm trying to work on stuff, I can't focus because there's something within her that creates a sense of anxiety within me. I kind of got off on a tangent there. But the other element of things is just looking at the way that people in my family have structured their lives, or the lack of structure within it, and seeing how that has affected my mother, how that has affected, therefore, me. And I think that a lot of us have this concept of ancestral healing that's kind of out there and woo-woo, but really it's largely about de-patterning a lot of the negative things that have been passed down from generation and generation and have encoded themselves in us, And it's interesting because it's kind of the weight of the eons crushing down upon us and causing us to really look at our behavior and make better choices in order to move forward. And by doing so, if I ever meet the right woman and decide to have children, I'm giving them a better opportunity by consciously taking on these issues within me and not just writing it off and saying, this is genetics, I'm doomed. Bruce Lipton, I want to say it is, talks about the concept of epigenetics, which is we possess the ability to rewire or reorganize our DNA in our favor and turn on or turn off certain attributes. And that is largely what I work on every day with my habits and my lifestyle. And I encourage you to do the same. So how can we really begin ancestral healing? And I think that that's a big question. And I think it has a very simple answer. That's looking at our own life and seeing the areas in which we suffer. And when we begin to pick apart at those with an honest, with a sense of honesty and with compassion towards ourselves, and then also a rigorous determination to correct it and not just rationalize it and justify it and sweep it under the rug and write it off, we begin to pull on various threads and we see what else it's connected to. And when we pull those connecting threads, it'll stretch back further in our family. And eventually you realize that it is this issue that had somehow been encoded in our lineage, often through trauma. And oddly enough, it's trauma which will cause us to bring it to the surface. I really dislike this whole New Age concept where healing is this blissful experience. It's messy, it is painful, it's exhausting at times. At the same time, I wouldn't have it any other way. That's largely why I kind of identify with this attitude of mysticism, because I am going on this inward journey and I am kind of reorganizing my spiritual closet, taking out what no longer fits me, what's out of style for the lifestyle that I want to live, and really evaluating what is important to me, what I want to keep, what I can repurpose, and making choices based upon that. Really looking at the bulk of the issues that I suffer. Everybody in my family suffered to them to some extent. And although maybe my family didn't directly abuse substances like I did, they all had their other escape hatches that maybe were more socially acceptable, but were just as damaging. They all had the same toxic, poisonous attitudes. They all had, I am a product of my family, and really understanding that is heavy. I think the other element of that too is appreciating the good qualities that I have from my family, and also understanding that some of the negative qualities that I have actually have a good basis. It's just that they've been exhibited to an extent which is destructive. One of the things that I've learned from being in a 12-step program is they talk about the traits that addicts have are normal human traits. We're all on the spectrum of these traits. The issue that I have is either overemphasis or lack of emphasis of some of those traits, and finding out how to be in a state of equilibrium with them to live a more balanced life. That is where spiritual principles come in. That is where the discipline that I've cultivated with going to the gym, exercising, with maintaining my schedule in regards to production, with all of my digital efforts, with going to meetings, with communicating, with working on myself, comes into play. Do I think ancestral healing is important? Yes. Do I think everybody should do it? Absolutely. Do I think everybody will do it? No, I think that people are chosen for this almost by their DNA. And it really is when the weight of all of the collective trauma of your family line comes crashing down upon you, and you're left with the option of either being destroyed by it or completely changing your life and rising up like a phoenix from the ashes. And with that, I love, respect, and appreciate all of you. I hope that this helped somebody, and I will talk to you soon. Peace, people.